Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 7 Studio Ave. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, Jeff. I just want to apologize in advance if I coughed during this episode. I've been a little sick recently.
God damn it, Jalen. Happy New Year, Brandon.
Happy New Year, Jeffrey.
So, it is just the three of us today. In honor of Aquaman, we tried to record an episode underwater. It didn't work out so well. Sam may have drowned, so he won't be joining us today. But we're just going to keep pushing forward, right, guys?
All right.
Yeah. We're a trifecta.
All right, so what do you guys want to talk about first? We got the Endgame trailer.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's long overdue. We could talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. So, for starters, we were right.
Yeah.
We called it was going to be Avengers Endgame. To be fair, we weren't the only ones who predicted this, but I never thought it was going to be Annihilation.
I didn't think so either.
It didn't have any symbolic or narrative significance to be the title of this final chapter.
Nope. Yeah. Also, Ronin. That's probably one of the biggest parts of the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
We all pretty much knew that, though.
We see Hawkeye with his new look. Really cool sword.
Yeah, it looks really good. I saw a weird theory about that Ronin is in fact this
another
Ronin,
dimension.
Yeah, from another dimension. It's a stretch. I don't know about this. People from the internet speculating on that, but hey, we like to read theories all the time, so
there's
it's interesting to
also
consider.
a lot of theories that they'll introduce a character called Black Knight.
Yeah.
There's theories about how Ant-Man might not be him, and he might be a Skrull or Loki. And I just want to say, I'm very reluctant to get on board with some of these theories. I love fan theories, but the reason I'm so hesitant with this is essentially the second part to Infinity War. And it's also sort of a bookend to the MCU that we've known thus far. So I don't think they're going to introduce a drastically new concept in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this. I mean, I feel like the bold statement they made was ending the last movie with the snap, and I don't think they're going for necessarily something bold like that again. I think there will be sacrifices, and I think there will be some surprising moments. But some of the crazy theories out there, I think they're going to focus more on just making a quality movie and making a quality end to this long story versus trying something really risky.
Right, there's a lot to wrap up. I don't think they have time to do, finish the story they've been telling and tell Secret Wars with one of the characters being a Skrull, or Secret Invasion, sorry. I wouldn't put it past one character being a Skrull because they are going to introduce those in Captain Marvel. But again, I don't think they should tell a story that takes away from the main story that they've already been telling.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
People are saying that the trailer sort of suggests Captain America's gonna die.
I mean, not even just the trailer, the fact that his contract ends after this movie, I think this is another time where, as the podcast, we can predict that Captain America will die, and I believe that will come true.
Or this is just another misdirection.
That's also
Marvel
true.
is, I would say, the most famous for editing certain shots of their trailers, adding characters, stuff like that. We see the return of his compass with Peggy Carter in it. The last time he looked at that, he nosedived into the ocean in a plane.
Mm-hmm. That's some
hinting,
heavy foreshadowing right there.
Yeah, hinting again towards the idea of self-sacrifice.
Jeff, why don't you tell him about the outfit he's wearing, the uniform he's wearing?
Oh my gosh. This might have been my favorite part of the trailer, just seeing him back in the Winter Soldier stealth suit. It's that dark navy suit with the no red, lines around the star. It's just a phenomenal suit. Chris Evans has said in interviews that it's his favorite suit to wear, so I'm just beyond thrilled that they're putting him back in it.
Yeah, definitely looks good. I recently rewatched Winter Soldier, and I think I was around 14 or 13 when I first saw the movie, and so I think I liked it then, but watching it now and being able to appreciate movies more, I really appreciated that movie, just everything about it, so really happy to see him in that suit.
It would be really cool if at one point he turns to Bucky or someone and says, "This is the end of the line." Because him and Bucky have had that ongoing interaction where they say, "I'm with you to the end of the line." So it'd be very interesting, again, to sort of put a bookend on it.
That's definitely true.
Another one of the hosts, Logan, and I were talking the other day about how they'll go about the reunion between Steve and Tony. because that's something that we did not see in Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of tension there. Steve seems to have moved beyond it more so than Tony, because at the end of Civil War, he apologized. He gave him like the cell phone, and then in Infinity War, we see Steve refer to Tony as Earth's best defender to Ross. So it seems like Steve is much more willing to forgive and move on than Tony Stark is, and I think it would be really bold if they just don't meet up again. Like, can you imagine if Cap dies and Tony is left with this, like, regret of never making amends?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I would say if they do meet up, I believe Tony and him are going to have a positive meetup. Like, I believe they may even hug or just have a mutual respect, like, for each other, because I think if anyone has ever had like a loved one that has passed away or someone close to you passed away, you start to realize the things in life that really matter, and what's going on to them right now and all the people they've lost is nothing compared to the fight and the dilemma they had in Civil War. So I think even despite their tension with each other, I think they've always had respect for each other. I think Tony's main issue in the end of Civil War was solely with Bucky, to be completely honest. It was more that Steve was defending Bucky.
Right.
But it was just his anger towards Bucky for killing his parents. So I think overall they will have a positive reconnection.
Speaking of the people that they lost, we see in one shot that Bruce Banner's looking at pictures of people that are missing, and we see that Shuri is among them.
Yeah.
So she may not have survived the snap.
Yeah.
But then again, they could change this for the final movie. We really don't know anything.
Did M'Baku survive the snap?
Yes, we see him looking around confused. So he survived the snap.
I could definitely see him being the temporary king of Wakanda.
Or Okoye.
Or Okoye, that's also true.
One of my favorite parts of Infinity War is, I don't know the actress's name, but the actress who plays Okoye, her just look of shock and utter confusion. All the other characters do a really good job of like conveying like the sadness and the grief, but I think she does the best at conveying what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
Just like the terror of it almost.
Definitely.
Speaking of Tony, he's not in the best of shape. We see him stuck on the Benatar, which is the Guardian ship. Probably with Nebula. It wouldn't make sense for them to split up at that point. But, so how do you guys think he's going to get back to Earth?
Some people have said Captain Marvel will come. I'm not necessarily so sure about that. That's a possibility. I think he's going to get to Earth relatively quickly within the movie. Because I think his character is necessary to move things along. I think maybe for the first act, he'll be in space, but I think he'll be back on Earth pretty quickly. And with these Avengers movies nowadays, like, with all the characters, we see this in Infinity War, things move quickly. There's not a lot of idle time within these movies because they have a lot of characters and a lot of story they want to get.
A lot of things to do.
A lot of things to do. So I definitely believe that Tony will get back to Earth pretty quickly. I don't know how he'll do it, but I definitely think he'll be able to. I saw one theory that he that when he says he's like, what's the phrase he says?
So
like,
he says, there's two things. He says, like, being trapped in space with no hope of rescue isn't as bad as it sounds.
No,
so that,
right before he's about to, like...
When I drift off, I'll dream about you. Is it about the hypersleep thing?
Yeah, so there's a theory out there that Nebula is going to put him in some sort of, like, some sort of stasis, and that she's going to shut down because, you know, she's a cyborg, I guess you could call her.
Basically cyborg.
A cyborg.
We saw in Infinity War, she's, like, 97% robotic.
Yeah. So... Then there's a theory that they're going to arrive on Earth years later.
Yeah, I like that because it lends credence to the timeline, to like the time jump.
Yeah.
And now that you've said it, I've just remembered a bizarre thing that was established in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
In Season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Season 5 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they do a lot of weird stuff with time jumps and stuff, but they in the MCU, there is like this pod that can put someone into cryosleep for at least 70 years, because we see one character do that. So it is actually a thing that has been established in the space side of the MCU. I wouldn't put it past them to do that. Plus, it would make a neat little sort of parallel between Captain America being in suspended animation for years and Tony Stark being in suspended animation for years.
Very true, and that could add to like him understanding Cap's just perspective more.
Feeling like a man out of time.
Yeah, and Cap also grew up in a time where there was a lot, like he had to sacrifice to attempt to save millions of people in the same way that Tony was trying to do that himself. That would be really interesting. And on top of that, there's these young actors who have been cast. A lot of people, some theorize it to be Tony Stark's daughter, or
one is confirmed to be Cassie Lang, Ant-Man's daughter, but she's
much
a
older.
6 or 17-year-old.
Yeah, and so
whether they use like quantum realm time travel or a time jump.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to me if the theory about like the cryo sleep would, if Tony Stark arrived on Earth years later, I think it'd be really interesting if he had talked to Pepper Potts about children in Avengers Infinity War. And imagine if she was pregnant when he left and they just didn't realize it. He gets back to Earth and he's missed several years of his child's life. That'd be very interesting dilemma to see him deal with in the movie.
Also, there's a shot of the Benatar just sort of floating in space, and the silhouette of the wings is very similar to a swallow, which apparently is like symbolic as like the end of a long journey. And we hear him say, part of every journey is the end.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. What I really like is how much we still don't know. Like, that excites me.
I really like that too.
I honestly feel like they could just not put out any more trailers.
Yeah, they don't need to. I mean, of course we all kind of want it, like, selfishly, but do we really? I mean, when I know when I watched the trailer, I thought two things. Two things that stood out to me the most. One, that unlike the Infinity War trailer, there was a lot more character interaction and deeper discussion between them versus like big CGI action scenes, which are probably still going to be in the movie. It's just they didn't show it as much in the trailer. And also that we didn't learn that much at all, really. And I really like that because it's just going to make the viewing experience, even better.
Right. People always point to scenes in Infinity War like Captain America's entrance and Thor's entrance. I maintain that Thor's entrance is better because we see Captain America's entrance in the trailer.
Yeah.
So it's the
definitely.
things we don't see in the trailer that excite me the most.
Yeah. I want to add, I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw online some people believe that the Russo brothers had the trailer directed in a certain way where each of the original Avengers lighting within the trailer matches the lighting of a different Infinity Stone.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure either. If you look at it, it looks like there's red lighting with Hawkeye for reality, orange lighting with Black Widow for soul, yellow lighting with Captain America for mind, time for Tony, green lighting, blue lighting for Hulk, which would be the Space Stone or Bruce Banner in this shot, and then purple lighting around Thor for power. Now, not necessarily true, but if they did, that'd be pretty interesting.
Speaking of lighting, though, in the trailer there's a shot of like the sun rising on the empty Avengers facility, which shows just how, contrast to how we saw it at the end of Age of Ultron, where there were just several people bustling about. Here it's empty, and right after the shot of the sun rising, we see a shot of Thor, looking all sad. He's in a hoodie, kind of looks like a bit like hobo-esque. So it goes back to the line that Loki had, like, right before, like, Thanos killed him. Spoilers for Infinity War if you somehow haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Don't worry, brother, the sign will shine on us again." And so, again, it's that parallel of, no, it's not going to happen. I guess we sort of have to talk about it. Do you think Loki's going to come back to life?
Nope, definitely not.
I hope he doesn't.
He's not.
Thanos,
I would bet money on he's not.
Thanos pretty much stared into the camera and said, "No resurrection."
Though I will mention, isn't it confirmed that Loki is gonna have his own show?
Yeah, but you have to think about it like.
But I'm not saying that he's coming back. I'm just saying it's kind of cool that that's the thing.
Yeah, but again, I hope if Loki does come back, I'm not gonna like throw my hands up and walk out of the theater. I just hope that if he does come back, it's because of time travel or something. I think the people that Thanos kill should have some sort of significance. Bringing Loki back just takes away from Thor's arc. It takes away from Thanos' character. It's just a whole bunch of things. About the Loki series, Loki's like at least 1,000 years old. They have more than enough time to fill in that gap. I saw this one theory that I really like about how it's going to take place on Sakaar, because we hear a line in Thor Ragnarok about how, because of the weird space-time stuff of Sakaar, Loki has been there for weeks before Thor gets there. So I'd really like to see like what happened in those weeks, how he like gains the favor of the Grand Master, that sort of stuff.
I don't think he will, because I think I don't know. They haven't confirmed any other of the big actors from the MCU being in that show. But I feel like if they want to save money, because it is a show and usually those have less budget, they're just going to hire new actors for different characters. So instead of Loki interacting with like characters we've seen in the movies, I feel like it's just going to be completely different characters. I would like to see maybe an interaction with like Mistress is her name, right? Mistress, isn't that like a villain for Thor?
Enchantress.
Enchantress. Yeah. I just remember like that'd be interesting. Maybe they had some sort of relationship in the past, and yeah, maybe she's the villain of the series, or I don't even know. But
I wouldn't mind seeing some more like magic. Like in the comics, Loki is supposed to be like on par or just under Doctor Strange. Like at some points, he's been the Sorcerer Supreme, and all we've really seen out of him is he can make holograms of himself, and he can like pull a dagger out of anywhere. So it'd be really cool to explore like why he is the god of mischief and not just like a god of holograms.
Yeah, definitely.
So looking forward to those things from the MCU. As far as other franchises, we got a trailer recently for Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I definitely think I want to hear what our other host Joey Carr has to say about it, but I can definitely say it's a really impressive trailer.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see. It looks like they're going to focus more on Godzilla and the monsters and their fights, which was a big criticism of the 2014 Godzilla, how every time something interesting happened to it, we cut away from that and followed our main character. So I really hope that this movie takes and treats Godzilla like he is the main character. I want to see what he's doing.
Yeah, that definitely would be interesting.
Yeah. So, want to talk about Aquaman some?
Definitely. I don't know about you. I'm going to give it a rating right now. I'm going to say I give Aquaman a rating of 7 out of 10. How about you?
I'd put it at an 8 out of 10.
All right.
I haven't watched the movie, that's why I'm not rating it.
So let's do some like non-spoilers and spoilers.
Okay, we'll start non-spoilers, and then we'll notify you when we're moving to our spoiler review.
Overall, thought it was fun. Great balance of humor, as well as there are some pretty like good emotional scenes in there.
Mm-hmm. I would say it had a lot of everything. There were some places that were lacking. I felt like the romance was not like it wasn't bad. It just didn't stand out to me. It was kind of a side thing.
Yeah, they didn't have the best of chemistry.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. I would say the movie was very cliche in a lot of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of people hear cliche and think bad. Cliche isn't necessarily bad. It's just noteworthy. Like I would say, the movie was very entertaining. My dad expressed it as he said it was epic. I agree with that. It's definitely a very accurate way to talk about the ending. And I would definitely say that the ending really puts the movie together in a nice way, and that the beginning was all right and even good sometimes, but not necessarily amazing. And that the overall movie isn't this like groundbreaking movie. However, it was very entertaining, and I recommend anyone go to watch it.
Yeah. The thing I admire and respect about it most is they take these admittedly ridiculous things from the comics, they acknowledge them, and they just play them so hard. Like,
Definitely.
That's the one thing I really like, how they're not afraid to have a giant crab man. But so, yeah. As of recording this, it is the highest grossing DCEU film. So, box office numbers aren't always the end-all be-all, but they should be taken into account.
Yeah.
Do you want to move into spoilers?
Yeah, all right. If you have not watched the movie, I would recommend checking out now. It was nice talking to you guys, but if you have seen the movie, stay tuned for the spoiler review. All right.
So, listeners may not know, but Aquaman is one of my favorite superheroes. He's always into my top 5, often shifting between 3rd and 4th. But so anyway, I absolutely love Jason Momoa as Aquaman. He was my favorite part of Justice League.
I just want to point out to you guys, right now Jeffrey is holding Aquaman's original Quindent, and he's just...
As I have been for this entire episode.
And when I arrived to record, I walk up the stairs, and he's just spinning the Quindent in his hand. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of Aquaman, big fan of the Quindent, even though in this movie everyone refers to it as a trident. But yeah, just really loved it.
I think, let me talk about some of the specific stuff that I kind of vaguely mentioned in the non-spoiler review. So, in terms of like it being kind of cliche and even cheesy sometimes, there's moments where it's like a character would be like, "I'm Ocean Master."
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, his helmet comes down, and you get like a musical score in the background, or "Call me Black Manta." Like those moments are kind of corny and cheesy. However, when they happen, it just makes you smile. Like it's not corny in a bad way.
There's a bit where he's threatening again a crab man, which is just picture a man, if you were a crab, there, and he's got it pinned down with his trident. And he's like, "What do you want me to call you, Your Highness?" He's like, "No, only Ocean Master." And it's just so great. He's wearing a ridiculous finned helmet. I love it. I just love it so much.
Yeah. And then there's a scene at the very end where he just Arthur is narrating in the background, and then all of a sudden you see him shooting up the water, and he explodes out of the surface of the water, and he's got the sun shining behind him, and he's holding his trident, and he says, "I am Aquaman," and you're just like,
my parents made me what I am.
Yeah,
son of the land, king of the seas.
It's very like
I am the protector
cheesy,
of the deep.
But
who am I?
It was cool.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat disappointed they missed a great chance to play Ocean Man, the song by Ween. But minor thing. So, like you were saying, how it's a bit cliche. I have written down the movies that it reminded me of.
Mm-hmm.
So, Thor.
Definitely.
Because there's like the whole technologically advanced society. There's a big colorful bridge. That's the only way into the city.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther, I feel, is a big one with
definitely.
the whole like challenge for the throne, secret advanced society.
Someone online said that it's Black Panther if the main character is Killmonger.
Yeah. Also, sort of similar to Killmonger. Now, Killmonger's a much better villain than Ocean Master for many reasons.
Yep.
Still love Ocean Master.
Yeah.
But they do have similar motivations, how you can look at their point and go, yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
I liked the ending in terms of where Ocean Master was going. Like, we'll definitely see him in the next movie, maybe even as an ally for some things. I liked how you can kind of tell that he may have realized that what he was doing is wrong, but at the same time, he's not fully, like, accepting that. You can definitely see that, which I thought there's an interesting dynamic between them at this point.
He has good intentions, but his means of going about them are what makes him the villain. Like, he lies, he kills, and he, like...
Yeah, you can tell he's selfish, he wants power. Like, even though he tries to deny it, he definitely wants power just to have it.
Mm-hmm. Also really like Dolph Lundgren's performance as King Nereus.
Yeah.
Sort of like the grizzled old king of the sea. Mm-hmm. His CGI red hair was a bit distracting at times. But, again, he's the one that has that one scene where he's talking to Orm, which is Ocean Master's real name. He's like, "I know what your plan is, Orm. Once you have the alliance of 4 kingdoms, you'll be able to declare yourself." And, like, there's a pause. He looks down and leers in the way that only Dolph Lundgren can leer. There's a huge music drop, and he's like, "You'll be able to declare yourself Ocean Master." It's just so great.
Yeah, it's like I said, cheesy but fun. Like you just like it. In terms of like the romantic relationship, it's cliche. Like the way their relationship escalates is very cliche, and it's like I feel like I've seen it before. Like it's a kind of like goofy comedic guy, rough on the edges, and the girl's like a princess and set to be queen, and she doesn't like him as much. And then
She's
they go
no
on
nonsense.
Yeah, no nonsense. And they go on a journey. He loosens her up. She makes him more. She makes him more responsible, and then they start to appreciate each other. And she wasn't promised to him; she's promised to another guy. It's just very cliche. They have a kiss at the end. Wow, but it is what it is. You can't. Sometimes it's hard to force a romance in a movie that's not specifically a romantic movie. I mean, another thing about the movie that I would definitely criticize, and I feel bad for this actor because I know a lot of people probably noticed it, but there's one scene where it's showing Arthur as a teenager and he's training on the beach.
Yeah.
And it's when he figures out what happened to his mom, and that actor is just he's just not that
Teenage
good.
Arthur. I mean, again, he's a teenager.
You're telling me my mother's dead? Like, it was just really corny.
Not great. But speaking of like Teenage Arthur, what I really like about Aquaman is I hope that this marks the death of the linear origin story. And what I mean by that is, think of a movie like Iron Man, like Doctor Strange, like Ant-Man. All of those revolve around, you see the character at the beginning, they don't have their powers. Through the course of the film, they get their powers. They accept their role as the hero, and then there's a big action scene at the end where they use their powers. This movie takes place in a world where Aquaman is already established. He knows what he's doing. We see in like a series of 3 flashbacks about his past, and I like that. I like that it's not part A is where we see him young, and part B is where we see him old. I like how it's interwoven, and I have a feeling that Captain Marvel in March is going to do the similar thing, where we're dropped into a story with these characters already existing, and through certain flashbacks we get their history. What I really like about that is it leaves room for other adventures to take place.
Yeah, definitely. I previously mentioned the romance wasn't as good, but I will say the romance between Arthur's parents I actually thought that was really good, touching, and even at the end when they're reunited, I was even a little teary there. I thought that was a very good moment. Trying to think of what else in the movie that stood out to me. CGI, I would say, is pretty good. Like
the CGI is pretty good, except for
some of the hair.
Volko's face. And again, in those flashbacks, there's one in particular where they CGI de-age William Dafoe. It's kind of scary. But again, that's a minor thing. I feel like the CGI de-aging on Tamara Morrison was pretty good, Aquaman's dad.
I thought it was pretty good too, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have written down here in my notebook, he can talk to fish, which I really liked. They used the same sound effect as from the original Super Friends cartoons. That's a cool Easter egg. But at the end, he's just talking to so many fish. But not only fish, he also talks to, like, aquatic mammals. Like, we see him talk to humpback whales, killer whales, narwhals. There's a point in the final battle where a man is speared by a narwhal's tusk, and I was laughing in the theater. But so that makes me wonder, like, this movie seems to say that that's an ability unique to him.
Yeah,
like the whole telepathy,
talking to animals and stuff. Yeah, that's unique to, I think, whoever's like the true like king of Atlantis.
Yeah, because even the sea monster points it out.
Yeah, what was the original guy? Was Atlas, right? Wasn't that his name?
Atlan.
Yeah, he was able to do that. I really like. Speaking of that, I really like the lore that they introduced in Aquaman, like about how the ones who look more human-like are the ones who have the royal blood in them, and that's why they can walk on land, because Atlantis used to actually be on land. But then when it collapsed and went underwater, different bloodlines evolved, and essentially, like, it's like Charles Darwin's like kind
theory
of like
of evolution.
Theory of evolution, which is really interesting to see. It was really cool. I would also like to mention, I thought they did a good job with Black Manta's character. It was I'm happy. I'll be happy to see him in the future. If you saw the end credits scene, he'll be returning. But I will also mention that when I first saw him, and I first saw that Aquaman was not going to save his father, I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. Like, typically you would think heroes would still save. I was kind of I'm glad that they referenced it, and I'm glad that Arthur had not acknowledged that what he did was probably wrong. But it is good to see that contrast. Like someone like Superman would have saved him, and it's just good to see that Arthur is not Superman. He's a different character.
I really like that because I am a big fan of like Red Hood and sort of the anti-heroes.
Oh, Red Hood is such a good Batman character.
The thing that annoys me most about Batman in the comics is how he refuses to kill the Joker. We're not going to get into this now. I know that's Batman's whole thing.
Oh, I'd love to get into
I
that.
like a superhero who's not afraid.
Did you
to,
see the ending for Titans?
Somewhat.
So basically,
I know that
it's like a dream world created by
Trigon.
Trigon, yeah, and in it,
Batman goes insane.
yeah, he kills the Joker. Like it's crazy. So he throws him off a roof.
And I've seen the shot of the Joker laying face forward on the car.
And so then Dick Grayson goes and talks to him and like tells him like what's up, man? Like, you know, the Joker, he's in the hospital. You didn't actually end up killing him. I hope you're not like going off the rails. And then Batman goes to the hospital and kills the Joker to make sure he's dead. And there's an amazing scene where they're in the Batcave. The SWAT team enters the Batcave, and Batman murders all of them. And then Starfire enters, and he freeze rays her, and she dies. And so then to kill Batman, Dick Grayson. Spoilers, by the way. This is a lot of spoilers if you haven't seen
Spoilers
Titans.
for Titans.
So then I read about this online. I don't actually watch the show. I saw some clips though.
Wait, is it Robin Dick Grayson or is it Nightwing?
He hasn't become Nightwing yet, but he's not with Batman anymore. But
Yeah.
he has explosives set up around
Wayne Manor.
Wayne Manor, yeah, and it explodes and collapses the whole Batcave. So then he goes to check to see if Starfire's still alive. She's not, but he sees Batman and he kind of like puts his hand up, and then Dick Grayson crushes him under like some rubble and kills him. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, but so I really like how Aquaman was like, you killed innocent people, ask the sea for mercy.
Yeah.
I like that whole opening scene on the submarine, despite the fact that the way he saves it would have killed all those people
Yeah.
because of rapid depressurization. But anyway, I feel like it does a really good job of establishing his powers. Like, oh, he's strong enough to bend steel, and he can throw guys about. Oh, and he's bulletproof. He can't stab him. But it also shows that you hit him with a grenade launcher, that'll put him, like, that'll injure him. He's not, he's not Superman. He's, like, super strong, but he also has limits. It does a great job of showing that, and it makes his fight with Black Manta later better, when Black Manta has the Atlantean equipment, like, now I have Atlantean steel.
Yeah. The lore for his whole suit was pretty good too. It's believable.
I didn't really like the design of the Atlantean soldiers.
Really? I thought they all looked really cool.
I thought their armor looked big and plasticky and bulky.
I thought, it looked big and bulky, but I was fine with it.
I liked the design of Zeeble, like the King Nearest, like their armor and stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah. But, so I'm sort of confused about the whole Seven Kingdoms of Atlantis. Because, so there's Atlantis, Zeeble, the Trench, the Brine, the Fishermen, the Deserters, and then there's the Lost Kingdom.
Yeah.
Which, we'll talk about the Lost Kingdom later, but I feel like they play fast and loose with what Atlantis is. Like, they refer to it both as one of the Seven Kingdoms
and then
the thing as a whole.
Thing. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I really don't know.
Also, the guys over at the Mostly Nitpicking podcast pointed out that, is Aquaman the Ocean Master now? Because he has the Alliance of Four Kingdoms. So I guess he's technically Ocean Master.
I think he's just considered the king of Atlantis.
Which... but it shows how they say that with Atlan's Trident, you'll put it all back together. So does that surpass it?
Yeah. So maybe what's happened is Ocean Master became something after generations had gone by, and they needed a leader. They just didn't have the same caliber as Atlan was. So maybe Ocean Master was more like essentially how. It's like a more political way to look at it. The Ocean Master aspect of like being a leader, like where he's like almost elected, kind of. And then I think, whereas the king of Atlantis is like the rightful ruler who will like do it perfectly. It's just they didn't have that person for several generations until Arthur arrived.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think now things will definitely change, and I think all the kingdoms will kind of be, because before it seemed like they almost had their own like political boundaries, but now I think they'll probably all become like more as one kingdom, which would be interesting to see.
There's definitely a lot of tension. Like, it seems like the brine, the crab people, just hate the Atlanteans and stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Also, so you need the alliance of 4 kingdoms. That's the majority to become Ocean Master. If 2 of the kingdoms are gone, the Deserters and the Lost Kingdom, if they're just gone, and the Trench are basically
Irrelevant. There's
Yeah.
monsters with like
you
no
shouldn't need
brain.
4 shouldn't be the majority because that's pretty much all of them.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, come on, James Wan, get it together. We're keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, still loved it though.
Yeah.
But what I love is like the little fish girl, the whatchamacallit, fisherman heir. Why does she have to fight in the battle?
I don't know.
Like she's just at the battle.
I mean, maybe she volunteered to fight.
I don't know. Like she was definitely fighting because Orm killed her father right in front of her and was like, "We're gonna move against the Brine Kingdom." Like so, she definitely didn't have a choice. But they made her fight in the battle, and the way King Nereus talks to her, just like she's another person. She's like, "Oh, the half-breed has Atlan's trident." He's like, "That's impossible. He can't have the trident." I also really like in that scene how there's those 2 Atlanteans that ride up on the shark, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, he's got the trident. He is the sea." Something about that delivery from those 2 extras made me laugh. They're just so nonchalant while all this other chaos is going on.
Yeah. What do you think about Aquaman's suit now that? Because I remember we previously had a debate. What do you think
Okay.
about it now?
I will concede that the gold suit is much better than his Justice League armor.
There we go. I'm gonna have
Seeing
to tell
it in-
Logan about this.
Seeing it in motion really changed my mind.
Yeah.
Like the way
And the trident looks really
and
cool.
the gold.
Oh my god.
The gold trident. Oh, I wish they had a replica of that.
Yeah, it's just like it's a very simplistic design, but it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
And the effects they'd had on it were really nice too.
Mm-hmm.
I also really liked how they detailed about the abilities of Atlanteans, like they can see in the dark, how they just have stronger skin, and obviously can breathe underwater. But I think that's really cool. Also, how when Arthur's like a child and he's being trained, he's like, "Oh, I can breathe underwater." Like, how did he not know that?
That's a good point.
Like, if he was grown enough where he could talk, by then he should know he could breathe underwater.
Because his mom was with him until he was like 4 or 5.
Yeah. Also, he lives like right next
On
to
the-
a lighthouse on a beach. Like, you would know that you could breathe underwater.
You would
Also,
think
like
his dad would have told him because
even something simple as he's a little baby taking like his dad's bathing him. He would notice that he could breathe underwater. Like,
that didn't really make sense. I am still so confused on how the Atlanteans can just like propel themselves.
You know, sometimes, Jeff, we just don't ask questions because it's still like one of our teachers said the other day. It's still not confirmed really how Superman flies because he
That's a good
hovers
point.
sometimes, and that doesn't really make sense.
So yeah, so it's they sort of fly. They swim in the same way that Superman flies. They just sort of propel themselves, which I'm not complaining about too much because it'd be really awkward if they had to just swim.
Yeah,
slowly.
It's kind of interesting, like how it makes sense how they would just be able to hover and float under the water because that's just regular. Like, but it doesn't make sense how they're able to like move fast. Whereas with Superman, it makes sense how he'd be able to like shoot forward because if he jumps and the Earth has low gravity for him, that makes sense. But how does he hover? Whatever. We don't. I
it's
mean,
comic
we're
book
asking
movie.
stupid like questions, but it's whatever.
What did you think of the octopus playing the drums?
Cool, I guess. I didn't really have a feeling about it.
There are some critics who are like complaining about that. Like, this is a comic book movie. Have
Yeah,
fun.
you can't really take everything in these movies seriously.
Shut up, Logan. I'm calling you out. You're not here, so I'm gonna call you out. Get a trident and fight me, coward. I don't think he listens to these anyway. So.
Yeah. Well.
So. Oh, I also have written down here connections to Justice League.
Oh, can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
I had a theory. It didn't happen in the end credit scene. I thought it would. Lex Luthor and Slade Wilson right now currently are like establishing like the Legion of Doom, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, if it hasn't happened yet, I think that Black Manta will join the Legion of Doom.
That would have made a lot more sense, because
I really thought that would happen.
the last time we see Lex Luthor and Slade Wilson, they're on a boat already.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been easy for them to just pick him up, but instead it's the guy from Ant-Man and the Wasp, the FBI agent.
Yeah.
I don't know the actor's name. I know he's a good comedian, though. I really liked him, how... It doesn't make sense in this universe that they're quick to dismiss him as the nutball. Because his character is like, Atlantis exists. We have to acknowledge this. But he's treated as, oh, you're just the crackpot
Yeah,
scientist.
also, like, Metahumans are, like, a pretty big thing. Like,
This
Superman,
is a world
yeah.
where Superman has been around for years.
Yeah.
Aliens invaded.
They
I
saw
wouldn't put it
Steppenwolf,
past
yeah.
them. Speaking of Steppenwolf, when Mira's trying to coax him to come back to Atlantis, she's like, "You defeated Steppenwolf." He really didn't. But I like the idea that Aquaman told her he defeated Steppenwolf.
He was one of the few people that could actually, like, Aquaman and... him, Wonder Woman, and Superman were the, like, few people who could actually fight against him.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call that defeating, but
Yeah.
I like the idea that this Aquaman's just like, yeah, I defeated him. I'm a badass.
You can imagine him at a bar, drinking with some buddies, telling some stories, and exaggerating.
But so overall, really had fun with this. This is, without a doubt, my favorite DCEU movie.
I would probably still put Wonder Woman over this one, to be honest. I wouldn't put one... I would say that I like Wonder Woman for different reasons. I think I like Wonder Woman's character development and dialogue more. However, I like effects and just aesthetic of Aquaman more. But I would say I both like them. I'm going to put them as a tie for different reasons.
This made me wish I knew more about marine biology. Because, for those of you who don't know, I really like animals, but I'm much more well-versed with mammal knowledge as opposed to marine life. Like, I know some of it, but the ocean is just so vast and interesting. This made me wish I knew more about marine biology.
Yeah. Any other final concluding thoughts, or do you think that's it?
Again, just absolutely loved it. I saw it twice and loved it even better the second time. Oh, one minor thing. How many times is someone's conversation interrupted by an explosion?
I don't know. I was not paying attention to that.
It's at least 6 times, where that's a minor criticism. I don't feel like they had a good way to segue between some scenes, because they don't really explain how they get out of the desert. They just sort of focus in on the map and suddenly they're in Italy. So that's my minor complaint, is some of the transitions they chose were a bit questionable.
Yeah.
All right. Any final things, guys?
I don't think so. That's all I had to say.
All right. Well, then in that case, we'll see you in 7.